Wealth killers are real when you don't know the rules of the game. And since you guys are here, you may have a closer reality of to what the rules of the game are, but they're in the inflation, the taxes, the market booms and busts, the interest, the change in whoever's the political leader in our country. It continues to control your financial life until you ask yourself, what do the wealthy do differently? When you ask this question, you will see that the wealthy do not gamble with their finances. They do not gamble with their legacy. Instead, they utilize a boring 200-year-old strategy to build their financial foundation. Black belts, they prioritize control, precision, and practical outcomes with as little effort as necessary. They don't gamble with their safety or the safety of those they love or their financial futures. So today, we're going to talk about something boring, but something that will change your financial future guaranteed when applied. So let's jump in. And so today, we're talking about guarantees. Guarantees, everyone. So guaranteed benefits as financial stability. So when you're building, let me ask you guys, when you're building, and Felix, you better jump in on this, when you're building a financial foundation, what are some of the things that you want to have in your guaranteed financial foundation? What are some of the things? There's three up on the board right there for you, but drop it in the chat. What do you guys want to see? Do you want to see something that is contractually guaranteed? You like contractually guaranteed things? Do you like stability? Profitability for 100 plus years? Do you like tax-free growth? Do you want to be able to access your money? Do you want to have it protected against liens and judgment in this very liable country we live in, right? Do you want to have it uninterrupted and compounding? And would you like to have a cherry on top? Who doesn't want a cherry on top, Gabe? Does anyone want a guaranteed legacy? So today, when we dive into this, much like martial arts we're talking about, it is what can we do to build the financial foundation? I've got a fun story for later in this training that came from this morning from riding with one of my buddies. And what he said was so off what we do, but it was so fun that he said it, and I was blown away. So I'm excited to share that fun story with you. So as we go through, Gabe, what about this here? We train, we teach, we test, as I talked about, financial self-defense, the black belt mindset. We're talking about what, Gabe? We're talking about prevention. Talk about prevention a little bit when it comes to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like a inside joke with jiu-jitsu. People always ask, "Oh, how do you get out of an armbar?" The correct answer is you can't let them put you in one, right? You have to keep yourself out of that situation. An ounce of prevention beats a pound of the cure because then someone will just rabbit hole for because what I love about jujitsu and infinite banking, the way I see them too with my thinking is, we have a limited amount of resources. Maybe you have $10,000 in your policy loan. That's all you get. Now, how can you put those $10,000 to work, or $1,000? In jujitsu, you can only train so many hours a day before it's just diminishing returns. So you have to allocate, like, what do you want to work on? Takedowns, you want to work on defense, because you have to practice stuff to get better. Otherwise, you'll never be more skillful. And in jujitsu, it's like in chess, like when you have they'll have rankings. If someone's better than you, they're always going to win. It's not like, oh, he got lucky with this one. It's like, no, if someone's just better than you, they're just going to win every time. And you kind of have to accept that, right? But if you focus so much on, oh, I want to be able to skate these positions, but if you can just keep them from never putting you in those bad positions, you're always going to be ahead. And in jiu-jitsu, when you're ahead, you can stay ahead, and then up until the final checkmate, which is the choke from the mount that I showed the other day. But in IBC and in our finances, we want to get ahead on the cash flow, start saving that cash flow, start compounding that cash flow, and then we want to use our loans to finance everything we want to do in our life. And you have to capitalize a certain amount and give it enough time for it to become efficient. But now once you're ahead and you have a financial tailwind, you don't need to be hyper successful with the business. You just need a working business. Just 15, 20, 30% profit margin, something safe, something boring, just like Jason was talking about. I have uncles who've become millionaires with drywall and painting. It's boring stuff. It's hard work, but it's very predictable. And that's what we want to start to show you is you don't have to gamble on your future. You don't have to put your money at risk and then hope it's going to be there when we retire. Hope Social Security will be there when we retire, right? We want to put this in our hands and give us the power. And it's not that complicated. It's one step at a time, one step at a time, a little bit of compounding, like we've been talking about for these past weeks. But once you're
For
ahead, we
7
want to
weeks, Gabe.
stay ahead. Yep.
For 7 weeks. And in martial arts, we're not picking the fights. We're
Yeah.
trained to avoid them. We're trained to protect what's important. Like Gabe said, we want a controlled environment. Like if you see someone that knows martial arts, knows Taekwondo, karate, when they throw their hands like this, they're not saying, "Hey, I don't want to fight." They're saying, "Hey, back off." But I'm creating a frame. I want you to punch me here. I want you to go for my face so I can knock it down and strike. Like I am controlling the environment of what's going to happen next. And that's what Gabe's talking about. He's saying, hey, best way to, get out of an arm bar is not to get in one, not to get in one, not to get in a fight. So we're talking to all of you about getting on the mats. And in week 7, we're talking about the training, the teaching, the testing, become capable of defending ourselves, or in the financial terms, we become capable of taking care of ourselves and setting ourselves up for success when the opportunity comes. And that helps us protect not only ourselves, but our loved ones. It's the financial self-defense. It works the same way as martial arts. And that's why we keep bringing you on the mat, keep telling you guys the same thing, keep talking about guaranteed foundations. And when we look at this, how does IBC align with guaranteed benefits? Well, like Gabe was saying a second ago, you borrow from your policy while it continues to grow uninterrupted. And we're going to go through some examples today. As we go through this, we're going to go through some ways to put your money to work once you build the foundation, once you capitalize a system. Your money compounds, even when it's in use, as if it's untouched. So whether you have a glorified savings account because you don't know what to do with your money yet, and you don't have a place to put it to work, you're Warren Buffett and you're sitting on $200+ billion of cash right now because you're waiting for the opportunity, or you're paying off your debts to recapture that money, or you're using it to pay for something in your life right now, kids' school, whatever it might be. And then you get to control the terms.
Can I
Again,
speak on that, Jason?
yes,
Everything you're
please.
saying is you're positioning yourself, right? And I came from an immigrant family where we're always like behind, like, and we had to like work extra jobs to pay for things. At some point, now you're in a position where you don't have to work as much and you can sit patiently with the money. Like in jiu-jitsu, you want to get ahead, you get to a good position like mount, where you're on top of them, it's almost like suffocating. Eventually, they're going to push you. And when they push you, that's when you go for the armbar. Some of these guys that are new, they're so insistent on like trying to force an armbar that the person's just like defending the whole time because they know an armbar is coming. You have to almost get them to forget that you're going to go for an armbar, and you kind of put your weight on them in a certain way so that they push you, and then you go for the armbar. That's what Jason's saying. Position yourself so that an opportunity comes, but you don't have to take just any opportunity. You can be selective, and that's something that I think I did wrong in my financial journey, Jason. That I never really built an emergency like savings fund, just in case, like, man, if something goes wrong, I got this money to sit on it. I was always a little too ambitious, so I would start things a little bit before I was ready, and I was always tight on cash flow. So I had like this anxiety kind of driving me, like I don't want to be
Mm.
broke and have to move back home with my parents. I think it would have been a much more, but I ended up having to do that anyway after my divorce. And it wasn't that bad, right? But if I would have positioned myself a little bit better, I might have a more calm and peaceful journey. But
And
anyway,
that's an internal, and Gabe, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. I mean, this, like, just so everyone knows, I've made all the financial mistakes. I've been out of debt with a couple months savings multiple times in my adult life. And then something happens. Like that, what's one guarantee in life? Can you guys pop it in the chat just to keep interactive here? What's one guarantee in life other than death and taxes? What's something that's guaranteed in your life? It's simple. It's one word. It starts with a C, ends in an E. One word. Change. Linus has heard me say it's for change. Change is guaranteed. We don't have crystal balls, but like Gabe is saying, we can control the environment. And you know what the greatest thing is when you start controlling that environment, when you start controlling the financial environment, it's going to also affect your internal environment. Because when you understand the rules of the game, everything slows down. And then when change comes, you're like, I got this. I got this. You might get mad for a second because we're human. You might get a little upset and be like, why again? And you're like, wait, I got this. I prepared for this. I was ready for this, like Gabe said. And all of a sudden, your feeling is no longer one of stress and worry because you're like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this? No, you know something's going to happen. It will happen. Change will come for better or for worse. Why not be prepared for it? Why not set your family up with that guaranteed, not one, but two? Because who wants just one guarantee? I want to give you guys two guarantees. Because I don't want anybody mad at me. I want to be liked, right? And so, like I said at the beginning, it starts with our questions that we ask ourselves. You know, when we're talking about, I talk to some folks and you know, they're like, I wish I would have learned about this long ago, this long ago. I hear that all the time. Gabe, do you hear that all the time? Man, I wish I would have known about this in my 20s. Yesterday, I was on a call with a 67-year-old who's starting her journey, super excited. And the next person I was talking to comes on the call, and she's like 21. And the reaction of the 60-year-old that's starting was like, oh my God, if I would have known about this when I was her age, you tell her to go for it, girl. You tell her to get after it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, wow. And so we go back to the questions, the power of questions. When you want to learn something about someone, ask them a better question. When you want to learn something new, ask a question that hasn't been asked before. And then what questions are you asking yourself? Learn from the wealthy. Learn from the wealthy. Every decision that we're making when we're in these conversations is made with generational wealth in mind. The wealthy build systems that thrive under that change, that stress, that uncertainty, no matter what the market conditions, the natural disasters, the global pandemics, the flying saucer UFOs, balloons, whatever's happening in our world, the wealthy stay wealthy or get wealthier. Why is that, Gabe? Why do the wealthy keep getting wealthier?
Buy low, sell high, never lose any money, right? As Warren Buffett says, and I think that's where the anti-fragility part is. Like maybe either you put yourself in a position where you could withstand a great economy, a bad economy. You'll bend, but you won't break, and you'll if you stay diligent and you plug up the holes along the way, uh, you won't have catastrophic ruin, right? It's like tending a farm, tending a garden. We have to stay on top of it, stay diligent. But if I think I've brought this up before. It's on my brown belt. It's don't wait for the enemy to show up. Just be ready for him. Just don't. What you're saying about the change is 100% right. It's gonna come, but just be ready. And that's what I think the us showing up, going over the basics, reading this, once a month, reading this one, at least like once a quarter, watching people who are black belts at this, who are pros at this. And I don't know if you want to talk about Marty yesterday. Maybe we'll talk about it later. But we got a chance to see at our agent training, Marty Smith, right? He's the vice president of SML, Security Mutual Life. He did a 15-minute presentation, and it was the simplest, most beautiful, most elegant presentation showing infinite banking. And it was from the perspective of him talking to his 30-year-old son. And
We'll bring it here, Gabe. You and I will bring that here at some point. Marty
yeah,
would love us to do that. We will bring you guys that presentation. But, Marty, he's got to be in his late 60s now. He's been around this, learned directly from R. Nelson Nash, like my mentor did, like Brent did of the Money Multiplier. And his excitement level, it like puts like Gabe and I, like we're not excited about this. I'm like, wow. This guy has been seeing this work and change lives for 20 plus years easily.
And look at the title here, learning from the wealthy. And that's just not wealthy in money, right? It's learning from wealth and, and wisdom, and because knowledge is power. We're able
If
to apply
applied,
it,
Gabe. Only if
right?
applied. Only if you're on the mat. If you're the people sitting there watching us, then you got to
Yeah.
pick a date and get on the mat. Like if you're here, like I see a lot, like Michael Trayer has one of the best stories ever. Like that man had a decision to make and he had two paths. He chose the harder path and now he has accelerated his life. And some other folks too, I'm not just calling everyone out because there's a lot of you here, but just know that you have to get on the mat or at least prepare to get on the mat and do the work. Right, Gabe? You have to do the work. And so when we're going to go through how to use your infinite banking policy to build, keep, and create more wealth. And today we're going to focus on a little bit more of the keeping and creating more wealth versus building. We're going to give you some examples because one of the biggest questions I've been getting and we've been getting, like Patty's been getting, it's like, hey, I have my policy, it's in force. Now what do I do? Now what do I do? How do I put it to work? What's the next thing I should be doing with it? So I want to just go over, different things. And this is what I'm going to tell the story really quickly about this morning. So I'm riding this morning and my buddy has a Christmas tree decorating business. He's had it for 20 plus years, crushed it this year, did some really beautiful things all over Central Florida and over in the Sarasota area. And he's like showing me some of the creative things. He's showing me pictures and he's showing me his bank account with $1 million in it, from the last 3 months. And, it's the biggest season he's had so far. And then he goes, Jason, you got any crypto yet? I was like, no, brother, I don't have any crypto yet. Jason, you in the stocks? You in Forex? My cousin who's $1 million realtor, he's got his $45,000 watch and his $150,000 Range Rover, and he's got this, he's got that. He's like keeping up with the Joneses, and that's his clientele, and he's taking $40,000 and giving it to somebody who could day trade and is charging him 15%. I'm like, he goes, don't you tell people to diversify? I was like, well, brother, I've been talking to you about what I do for the last almost 3 years. I taught you how to pay off your vehicle through a regular old whole life policy that you have and pay yourself back. You know that I don't do that. I'm not a financial advisor. I help people build foundations. I help people build guarantees. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I don't give financial advice. I don't tell you to diversify before you have a foundation. Once you have a foundation, yes, of course, diversify. Have your money in different things like, and understand. Have your money going out and making money for you. But first, brother, you got to get on the mat. And I thought it was so funny. That was our conversation before we sprinted our last sprint and then went and sat down for a while. But every time he's always bringing to me all this craziness about what I'm not invested in. One day he's super happy about crypto, and then a month later he's like, "Oh my God, it's the worst. I should have sold when I had." It's that constant conversation that I used to ignore. I used to ignore it because I was like, I don't know about money. I don't know about that stuff. But now I don't feel bad not knowing about it. I'm like, I'm not interested in it. If you love crypto, awesome. If you love Forex, awesome. If you love real estate, awesome. But find the thing that you know, like, and understand. And we're gonna talk about what is it that like, and understand. For you guys, like what is some of the things, pop in the chat, that like, and understand. Like where is some of that? We're gonna go through a couple just different examples. Whether you're going into Private Money Club that Chris created, a dating site for money, right? This is kind of what that's about. If you want to talk about this one a little bit, the lending on hard assets.
Yeah, the way it looks like this is set up is to actually purchase a property. I just did this. I used my down payment to buy a little 12-acre farm, and we're looking to move our jiu-jitsu school there eventually. And it's really exciting to be able to grow our own food. But this is something where if you want to become a millionaire or financially free, I always heard like you want to invest in real estate, and I actually ended up investing money in education to learn how to do it, like a professional. Our tax code is built around around real estate. But if you don't want to add a second business because you have to, it's the term real estate so big, but if you end up doing construction and buying and finding leads, it can be very overwhelming. And if you don't have enough volume, it's hard to keep up with the people that do have the resources. But here you can almost play a game where you're not competing against other people if you do what Brent does, where it's lending on real estate, and just being the lender. Because you can get your 15 to 18%, and now your banking business is making money. You don't have to fix any toilets that break. But Jason, real estate has probably been the first business people started, doing, right? Anything you want to add on real estate? Because
No, I mean, it's find something that you, again, whether it's find someone that you believe in their project. I hear this said a lot. Like if they're developers of land, you get ready for a project, you get ready for some kind of commercial development or housing development or whatever it might be. Like find people that you meet, that you know them, that you feel like, hey, what they're doing is making the world a better place for people to live or to do work in. And then from there, and this is what I love. Like, if we're gonna bring banking back to a you and me level, Gabe, I guess what I would say is, if we're bringing banking back to a you and me level, then where we're putting our money to work, I think it's important to, it's just me. I've been told that this is not true, so you know. But I think that it's important that we actually feel good about what our money is going out there to do, not just making us, going out and bringing us money home, but like, are we doing more good with our money? Because it's only amplifying what's inside of us, right? So with real estate, find someone, find a
100%.
deal that you like, find someone that's got a good track record, get the right education, like Gabe's talking about, and then go from there. Real estate lending is not something I've done yet. So I don't know, like, and understand it yet. I'll kind of leave it there for you, Gabe. And then, we're
Yeah,
going,
and I think the reason we had it here with this week with guaranteed, it's in real estate, if they don't pay their loan, you can foreclose on them and then you take the house. So if you force you want to set up in your operations where they have to pay at least 20%, 25% down, so they have some skin in the game. But if they lose that, you end up getting that equity on top of that. But you have to know how to foreclose on someone. And like Jason's saying, like you got to feel good about what the things you do with your money. I wouldn't feel super great about foreclosing on someone. So that's where you have to go in and make sure it's someone that's qualified and do what Jason just said. It's like you have to be like a real bank. You have to underwrite people correctly. But that is one of the benefits. It's hard. It's a hard asset because it's guaranteed. Your money is never at risk. You can always just take the property back.
and again, the reason we're going through these things is because it's a common question we're getting. Banking is boring. We're talking about guarantees today. We're talking about even when your money's out to work, if something happens and you do have to foreclose, and now that money is gone for the time being, or maybe forever, you still have that amount of cash value growing uninterrupted compounding interest and still providing protection for your family. So versus doing the or move, where I'm going to go invest in this or that, and then you're just hoping things are going to work out. Now we're just saying, slow down, change one thing, build a foundation first, and then from there, go maybe do some of these things. Maybe you're, I hear a lot of folks talking about car washes or laundromats. If you have a certain amount of capital, something comes up, you vet it, you can go ahead and take out the loan to start the business. There's a lot of different businesses that you can get into that are already running, and you can go in and hire a manager, and now you all of a sudden you might have a safety net, a self-sustaining cycle, and if something you really like, you can expand upon it. Like Gabe could open more, he could expand his jiu-jitsu school, and then you decide, you know what, I'm going to hire my junior instructors, I'm going to teach them, and now to create my legacy piece, I'm going to go have them open another six blade school here or there, and I'm going to have multiple schools. And that's how he's going to build that boring, like he talked about, 10, 15, 20%. But the real business is the business of banking that we're talking to all you about today.
I talked to you about my plan already. I already told you. I already
No,
told you my
no, man,
plan.
but I can read minds. Do you like that? That was pretty good.
Very good.
Pretty
Yeah.
good. And then
And
he's
if you
being,
guys
he's
think,
being,
oh, I don't have that much money, like you guys, it can be as simple as this. I started almost like a vending machine business. Like couple $100, $200 on Amazon. I go to Costco, I fill it up with Prime. I sell these for $4 and I buy them for like $1 a unit. And I just charge the people, on their account. And eventually I recycle that money. So I borrow the money from a policy to buy that, and then eventually I can expand to more merchandise. But that's a you want to practice with the policy and cash flow and trust that in the end, like you'll end up really, really far ahead once you get the the tailwind going.
I love that example. And that example shows you don't have to have, you know, 50, 100, 150, 200,000 millions of dollars to start. Gabe bought $200 and spends a dollar and makes four. And he also is controlling, it's protecting his family. It's also growing uninterrupted compounding and doing all the other things. And then he's just expanding upon it little by little. Same with like the Burr method, right? Flipping properties. Like you're putting money in, you're renovating the property yourself, you're controlling the environment. That's all we're talking to you about with guarantees. You're controlling the environment. You're avoiding traditional lenders, you're maintaining liquidity throughout the project, you're growing your policy while flipping. Like when you go through, I'm going to get to equipment financing here in a second, but when you go through, I think it's page 60. I was just looking at this morning. Actually, Gabe, when I was texting you this morning about today, that's what I was looking
Yeah.
through and kind of underlining things. It's actually page 51 of the book, Funding Your Business Equipment. And it just talks about how you can, and I'm working with a couple of doctors, a dentist and, an eye doctor, and they're both have $100,000 pieces of equipment that they funded through the business paying 6, 7, 8%. And now they're starting policies and they're going to recapture that money and recycle it and bring it back to their business to expand on that.
And they
And
can't run their business without that equipment, right?
that's right. That's right. So if you're a business owner, how many people put an E in the chat if you're an entrepreneur and you're here? Put an E in the chat. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, when page 51, Nelson Nash's life-changing work, I wrote that today, Becoming Your Own Banker, he reviews the equipment financing. He has 5, 6 pages of it, and he gives all the steps in the second paragraph. He's not like holding out on you. He's telling you, listen, you got to select the appropriate plan of life insurance with a quality dividend paying whole life insurance company, someone that knows how to do this, and you got to put money in it and capitalize it over time. And he talks a lot about capitalizing over time. And I know because I've had going to B&E. I love that, Paula. As Nelson Nash says, people are always like, I don't get this as much, Gabe, but Marty talked about this. When people ask, how much does this cost? And the first time Marty said this, I got uncomfortable, but then I thought about it. The first time Marty said, man, it doesn't cost nothing. I was like, wait, Marty, can you say that? It definitely has a capitalization cost. That's what we talk about. It's rule number 2. But over time, when you look at your policy, you reach, year 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, and every dollar you're putting in gives you more than a dollar. But you reach years 8, 9, or 10, and now every dollar that you put in is available with cash value. And you've got, a multiple of that that's a second guarantee. And so has it really cost you anything? Has it really cost you anything in that example? It just takes what? Long-term thinking. So no matter what the dividend scales are, the interest rates, the economy looks like, this is just an exercise, as he talks about, in imagination, reason, logic, and prophecy. Again, controlling your environment, getting on the mat, taking action.
And if the business equipment is not financed with your policy, then it's either bank finance, so you end up paying more interest, or you pay cash. Now that money's gone forever. And like Marty mentioned, you're not just losing out that $1, you're losing out on the opportunity cost of that dollar multiplying in the future for you. And he went over an example where you buy 7 cars over the course of a lifetime, $25,000 a car. How much does that end up costing you? It looks like 100, say without interest, $175,000, right? But over the course of those years, because of the interest, it ended up being over $400,000. Imagine if you were just taking out the policies and never paying them back. So it ends up accumulating to a huge amount. And those numbers, to me, I saw the inverse. It's like, okay, if I spend $25,000 on mats, on cars, or whatever, but I've given that away, those $25,000 can never multiply for me. So I am losing those $400,000 if, say, I bought the 175,000 in cash of whatever equipment, and it's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep, right? And if it keeps multiplying for you, you know.
And if you're making that much with one car, then what happens if you capitalize your system and have two cars? Or like Gabe's talking about, you take what you're really good at, you create a system to give you back time freedom, and you expand another school. You expand another school. At some point, you have an
Mhm.
exit strategy. It is long-term thinking that rolls into this. That Gabe, that's how I knew that could be your plan. It might not be. You might say, hey, one school running super efficiently gives me the time freedom and the income I need, and I can go out and do other things with my policy. But you might say, hey, if I could help, instead of helping 50 to 100 families at a time, if I can help 200, 300, 400 and bring this kind of structure to people. Like, I believe in martial arts. I'm not a good martial artist, y'all. Like, I have stuck hips. I can't really kick much above my waist, but I love the discipline of it. I love showing up and training hard, learning, of being able to continually be around the same messaging over and over again. Like today, my son got up and taught our class. He's 10, and he said, what is belief? Belief is, yes, I can, that's belief. And so giving that to all you, belief is, yes, I can. And so no matter what your current situation is, if you believe, yes, you can find a path to get there. And with Gabe, the example you just gave, it's that opportunity cost. Again, we're talking about the foundation today, just to guarantee, and if we keep going, so if we're bridge financing is another one, like people need, there's all these different opportunities with money. There's all these different things you can do with money. I'm not gonna go a lot over this, but I got asked that, hey, Jason, if you knew anyone that has, $500,000 that they can invest and make 18% in a month on it, we need a bridge loan. It's backed. And if you go to find people that have already done all their due diligence, and then you can get an attorney to look at it to make sure it's a real deal, there's lots of ways to put your money to work where you're not giving it like my friend did to someone. Because I've already talked to a bunch of people. Maybe if any of you do this, you can take their money, go in day trade, make giant returns, and then give them the money back, charge them a percentage for making the money. But I've seen people lose millions of dollars doing that. Like I've talked to them, Gabe, friends of mine, people that, that I've done business with before, right? And I was like, I don't know, man, you're kind of risky. He's like, yeah, I don't mind gambling. I'm like, yeah, but you end up with time freedom, and now you're going back to work again, and you're broke, and you do it again and again. Like at some point, you got to build a foundation. Like Chris wrote this, and this is in Connor's book. This is number 4 for Money is Simple, the 6 Laws of Wealth. Chris Nagel wrote this in Connor's book. Never be greedy or your money will flee you. And he said, if you just follow these 6 laws of wealth, Connor, you will be able to control your time, your money, and your future.
The hardest thing about greed is sometimes it can get kind of conflated with ambition, right? And or desire or just impatience. And yeah, exactly. It can get you in trouble.
I love that. Carme says, yes, I can. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so again, we're talking about why black belts in finance avoid gambling. We're talking about the leverage without loss, the recycling the money, the building the legacy, and it's small, consistent steps. We keep talking about being boring. Is it really boring? You know? Or another way, like I heard a friend of mine say, is it expensive or is it expansive? That'd be like this. Like, is this really boring or is this really the most exciting thing that you could ever have to change your life and change how you internally feel about money? And to be that leader that is actually going out for your family and turning around and lending a hand to everyone else. Hey, look, this is how I did it. Let me teach you. Let me train you. Let's test together. Let's build this together. You want to talk about the golden rule here? We're almost at the end, man. We've got a short one today for everyone.
Just treat others the way you want to be treated, or the one with the gold makes the rules.
I don't know
Which
which one.
one?
What came present first?
I think both are equally important. We can talk about both if you want.
Well, again, black belts. Black belts is a journey. Mastership is a journey after you've been doing something for years and years and years, and it's a never-ending journey. Yes, we have a finite existence, but our journey is infinite. The day we think our journey's like our past is bigger than our future, that you don't have anything to live for. You'll never grow old as long as your future remains bigger than your past. And so with you guys, everyone here showing up on a weekly basis saying, yes, I can, like Carme, and Paul is saying going to B&E, and Monica, E, It takes a lot of courage to do things. And what is courage? Courage is nothing more than fear plus action. Fear plus action is courage. So black belts are prepared to protect themselves and those around them. They adopt a disciplined and consistent practice. They continue the journey not because they want to fight, because they want to know they can if they need to. It's the same with infinite banking. Gabe said, hey, we can talk about the golden rule, like treat those like you want to be treated.
Or
And
this one, right?
This is one of the five laws of human nature that Nelson talks about. And so when you adopt the mindset of a black belt, whether it's infinite banking black belt or it's an actual black belt, you eliminate unnecessary risks. You maintain control and you execute a system that guarantees long-term success, long-term protection, long-term sustainability, long-term freedom, long-term legacy. Black belts aren't gambling. They're taking action with precision, focus, and discipline to ensure that they win before the fight even begins. Like Gabe said, if you don't want to be in an armbar, don't get in an armbar. It's the best way to get out of an armbar is not to get in it. And so when we talk about all the different ways you can move your money, well, if you don't know what that is yet, maybe it's time to go out and invest in yourself a little bit more and figure out what you know, like, and understand while your money builds up, while your capitalization goes up. There's no rush. There's no rush. There can be urgency around it, right, Gabe? But the golden rule is at times, patience might be the best thing that you can have. And building the system to have patience, building that guaranteed, as Hannah Kessler calls it, she says all the time, like, hey, it's a glorified savings account, y'all. That's got guarantees. And if the banks are keeping $225 billion in specially engineered whole life, again, where should we all be keeping our money? We'll be back to next week. It might be the day after Christmas, but we're going to come back for week 8 and week 9 in the new year. And if you haven't talked to me yet and you want to have a conversation, you can schedule by just scanning that QR code there. And if you missed any of our other weeks 1 through 6, they're all on my YouTube channel. Go check it out. Gabe, I'm super grateful to get to do this with you every week. I'm looking forward to see how we optimize it, how we keep making this simpler for folks. I think we're there, but I know that we're going to keep getting better as well. Yeah, we're committed to mastery. We're going to bring you Marty's presentation in a couple weeks.
No, hope everyone has great holidays, Christmas, New Year's, everything you guys celebrate. Spend some time with your families and start thinking about what would you do if money was no object? Like what kind of perfect day would look like for you, and then start getting creative, use your imagination. This is a great time of year to start thinking about those kinds of things, reflecting on your life and your family, and setting goals for the next year that are aligned with your long-term vision.
So there you guys have it. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and ring the bell because it might just turn blue and it will alert you to new content. Again, today we talked about why black belts don't gamble, why we're not looking for a fight, but we want to train, teach, and test, show up, be consistent, persistent on the mat, and really build something that's guaranteed with us structurally, mentally, emotionally, and that's what IBC is when it comes to your finances. How can you have that guaranteed financial foundation that gives you a multitude of benefits as long as you do what you've committed to? So keep learning, keep training. I'm super grateful for you, your energy, and your most important resource, your time, your energy, and your focus. So I'll see you in this next video where we're going to talk more about the infinite banking concept and how it can create the freedom that you desire. Until next time, until I see you in that next video, God bless and be blessed.